Hey guys, it's Matthew here once again, and I'm going to go ahead and just be yet another streamer chiming in on the energy shield and small bit of life changes coming in the beta for 3.0 and potentially the actual launch as well. So we were given today a sort of another development manifesto about energy shield changes that are coming in beta to start with, and you know, they're going to be tweaked and potentially implemented in 3.0. So it was posted on Reddit, and Rory decided to throw down essentially what's happening in the form of a Prince of Bel-Air rap, and I'm going to go ahead and rap that for you right now. So here goes. Whew, that was a lot of fun. Alright, now let's get onto the real discussion at hand. So there are pretty big changes coming to Energy Shield. At this stage, they are just going to happen on beta, so don't, you know, go crying that the sky is falling about Energy Shield just yet. A lot of these changes are probably going to get reverted or tweaked a little because they do seem to be pretty heavy-handed and rather, well, game-changing at this point for Energy Shield anyway. So to start with, we'll mention that Energy Shield builds at the moment are definitely better than Life, but that's not to say Life builds can't compete and aren't good at the moment. They are still fairly decent, they can very well compete and do all content in a number of different builds, but Energy Shield is undoubtedly better. Now, one of the reasons is you can get a large amount of Energy Shield off of your items and then scale up to 10,000 plus Energy Shield, combo it with your Val Pact, your Shavs for low life, your Val Pact, your Ghost River, you become pretty much unkillable, and it is the best defense in the game right now against a lot of what the game throws at you. So it's undoubtedly better right now, but the way they are stating in this manifesto is that it's a lot better than we currently think. They think you can get up to 25,000 energy shield while still having enough damage and decent enough DPS to do everything in the game. And that's not really too true. There's only, you know, like maybe a couple builds that can currently do that, and that's something like Essence Drain and, you know, Righteous Fire, and the damage isn't incredible, the clear speed isn't incredible, they're just, you know, capable of doing it, sure, and those are under some really extreme circumstances hitting those numbers. With the nerfs, you're definitely not going to see anything near what they say is 15,000, and then still clearing things on good builds. You'll probably still see 15,000 on the top tier Essence Drains, but it's going to be definitely a huge problem for every other type of energy shield build. So I'll go over the changes and basically just give my opinion on what's going to happen if they stay in place, but bear in mind they will probably not be in this exact form going from beta to 3.0 because we're going to have a lot to say about that in beta, I have a feeling. So across the board it is essentially a huge nerf to energy shield builds, CI and low life ones specifically. So what's happening is there's going to be a 33% reduction at the highest tier of modifiers for your energy shield items. So that means, as can be seen here, your VAR Regalia goes from about 750 to 550 energy shield, which is a pretty damn big cut. So without anything else changing, chances are you're probably going to be something like 25 to 30% off, better off with energy shield. So if you had 10,000 before, well, all of a sudden you have about 7,500, and that does already put a lot of stress onto your gear. To be a lot better to be viable for energy shield levels. Now they say they had to nerf the percentages across the board on armor and evasion as well, just because of the way it works with hybrids, but they're compensating that with the evasion and armor ones getting stronger on their base evasion and armor, so that shouldn't really be anything to worry about. And importantly in that, you will have legacy regalias and shit like that on standard, so you'll still be able to hit these crazy ES numbers, you know, to a certain extent. Because if you have the current chest and if you don't divine it or anything, it's going to stay that way. It's only the new ones that are going to roll with the nerfed values. And as well as that, uniques got updated, so a Shavs that was perfectly rolled will go from 450 energy shield to 350 energy shield, which is really quite insignificant. Coruscating Elixir becomes just a bit more tantalizing in that respect, I would think, or maybe even a Solaris Lorica is now objectively better than it used to be, while still being kind of shit, so it does give you another option there. But importantly, they have nerfed Energy Shield in a bunch of sources. So CI no longer has the multiplier behind it, which is a 15% more to all of your ES, which is pretty huge. I guess that kind of bridges the gap between low life and CI Energy Shield numbers though. for at least a small benefit. Elrion no longer has the 5 to 20% energy shield on rings, which is kind of a big deal. At best, your character could lose 40% energy shield, and Discipline now provides 33% less energy shield at level 20, but it also gives you 30% increased energy shield recharge rate. So, you know, that makes the actual playstyle that they're trying to promote at this point just a bit better with the Discipline, because from what we can read, they don't want you to have that instant life leech from Valpact and, you know, no worries playstyle. It's more of a current Essence Drain playstyle where you run around in circles and regen your energy shield. And Discipline will be a little bit better for that, but you do lose quite a lot of energy shield there. We then come upon what is kind of the big deal of these changes, and that's the changes to Valpact. So Valpact says this keystone will no longer affect energy shield in any way. It will only apply to life leech. So you will no longer be able to instantly leech your energy shield through Valpact, which is a huge deal, because a lot of the biggest dangers in the game right now are largely instant reaction based. So you need your, you know, energy shield, life, whatever to go up absolutely instantly to be able to survive lots of things like porcupines, reflect, volatiles. But we are told that volatiles and reflect and the entire sort of thing around that could very well change. But in this current state, if you don't have Valpact, a shitload of builds become completely unviable because of reflect, and you just cannot attack them without Valpact on a lot of attack-based builds. And likewise, the instant leeching you'd get from a volatile near death, that really brings you back up. And just the entire game in general, with double beyonds, with breaches, with a lot of sort of crazy shit that comes at you at once, not having Valpact is kind of not viable for an energy shield build that's attack based, and in a lot of cases that's going to be killing builds. But we very well will be getting a revamp of the game with 3.0, and it might not be an issue at all, but it certainly should, I think, without having Valpact on a lot of builds, kill a lot of those builds, especially attack-based ones. Ghost Reaver, they're changing so that it still gives you what it currently does, but they've also added a multiplier to energy shield recharge rate so that it becomes a lot shitter, and you are then a lot more leech dependent, because they're saying there's not enough downside to it, and thus you'll be trading your recharge rate for leech. So that's really going to make leeching quite awkward, but we're going to have to wait and see what the changes to leech and all that are, because it might still be okay. And Zealot's Oath had nothing changed to it. And then lastly, there's a few little things. So crafting energy shield stuff is going to be a lot easier, because a helm can get up to 45 energy shield from your Haku craft, which is pretty damn big, but you know, lower ES numbers are definitely going to hurt overall. So it's not really anything to you know, get too excited about. It's mostly just to bridge the gap between super expensive energy shield items and decent non-expensive energy shield items. And then they're also going to add some life modifiers to everything else, which is pretty damn good. So life builds across the board will now have access to hybrid life rolls that give you a bit of extra life and some armor and evasion. So in total, that means an astral plate can get up to about, you know, 150, 160 life. And if you do that across the board for all of your gear as a life build, that means you'll probably be able to go from something like 6k to 7k life, which is a really nice buff. And overall, if these changes stay put, like if we get these, for example, in the beta, I will bet a high amount of money that we're not going to see many energy shield builds at all, because like I said at the start of the video, there's nothing really wrong with life right now. You will occasionally die to a volatile on a really crazy map, but if you build your character safe enough, chances are that's almost never going to happen. It's only for the scrubs like myself that run those really insane maps with a low amount of life. Otherwise, you know, life builds are going to get easier and stronger to build, stronger and then easier to build, and that's going to make you want to go life in almost all of your builds, I dare say. And the energy shield playstyle is going to be adapted a lot more to like Essence Drain and totems and all that, where you run around, you try and avoid taking damage, and then you recharge a lot of it. So something like an occultist will probably see a lot of use in energy shield builds, and you know, blasphemy, temp chains, things like that. And then they're gonna, you know, make hybrid armor's a bit better with some of their rolls, but I don't know, hybrid kind of still sucks, and we might not care too much about that anyway. But if you really want to, feel free to read that. It's not as game-changing or impactful as all of this shit is. So you may be, thinking the sky's going to fall, and it very well could, but, with the beta coming out, with a lot of us going to be playing it, I'm sure some of these are going to get changed. I don't really foresee any way in which all of these changes go through in the current form they're in, because it would just be ridiculous and it would kill CI builds, or most Energy Shield builds, just right out the door. There's basically no reason you'd want to play them over life builds. You could certainly build them, and with enough currency and in the end game, you could probably still do it on quite a few characters, but it wouldn't be that worth doing. The only thing I could really think of is you could get a 5th flask at the moment as a benefit and be immune to chaos damage on your CI build. That's kind of the benefits that CI would then have over a life-based build, and you have to invest substantially more for it. So it's going to be a tough one to navigate, but we'll have to wait and see for the beta. Please don't, quit and say this is the end of the world. They are assuring us that it's just the first phase of changes and there will be more to come, based off of the beta. So that's my wrap up of the Energy Shield changes. Hope that did something for you. If not, shit. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.